This is Jay from Unmatched Style, and we're talking to Garrick Van Buren from Kernest.com. Garrick, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, great to be here.
So, tell me a little bit about what Kernest is, Kernest.com, and who is it for?
Uh, Kernest is, well, for deep down inside, Kernest was for me. And Kernest was for me as a design student long ago and far away, who wanted a repository of fonts that I could be comfortable using in whatever project I wanted to use them in, whether they be web projects or any design project, right? I think that's one of the challenges for somebody just starting their career in design is having that library of fonts that they feel comfortable using in whatever project, whether and most specifically within, say, an identity project. So you're creating a brand identity for a new organization or a new entity that you're going to want a website and a business card, for example, and all of that material offline and online and whatever those marketing materials may be. It's a challenge to get that consistency in brand identity across all those places. And one of Kernest's goals is to simplify that and make that easier, right? And make that so you don't need to worry about, am I licensed for this, that, or the other thing? And that's, I think, one of the challenges that when I first started diving into the font world was just deciphering what those font licenses from each different vendor and each different price point meant. It's highly complex.
Right. That was my first my first foray was all right. Now we can use this, but can I use it?
Yeah, exactly.
It was not easy at all to figure out.
No,
and it went quickly for me from being exciting to infuriating.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Suddenly, I was excited for a moment, and now I don't want to touch this because I don't know what grenade's going to go off.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's one of the if you go around Kernest, you can see that we've tried to do a good job of saying these are the high-level concepts. Like, yes, this font is available for commercial use. Yes, it's available for this use or that use. Just to make it clear that, oh, yeah, if I want to use it for this, I can.
Right. So how exactly does Kernest work?
Right. Kernest works in lots of different ways, which is kind of fun, right? So it's a font hosting service, because sometimes that's really, really easy to get a feel for a font, is just add in a single line of JavaScript and update your font families and call the fonts on the Kernest server. The Kernest servers have been getting a lot better lately, and I'm very happy to see that they've been running quite steadily for quite a while. I'm happy to see that. Also, you can download a significant portion, 95% of the fonts within Kernest.com. You can just click download and get every format you need with example code, everything. And there's a Drupal plugin that accesses Kernest API. So if you're running the Drupal content management system, you can suck it in within your admin. And then the Kernest Konstellations offering, which I'm very excited about.
Cool. So does the license determine whether it's delivered over with just a plain CSS file or with JavaScript?
We don't serve any JavaScript at all.
Okay.
It's all straight CSS.
It's all just straight to the CSS. So was that a problem? So you obviously worked with some foundries, maybe some font makers. Was that a problem for getting some of them to just allow it to link like that, or is it just depending on their license? Have you worked directly with some of them, or are you just like basing this mostly on their license agreements?
I do have agreements with a handful of foundries that are in there on what we do and do not allow for different usages, right? But the primary thing is whether or not they're downloadable.
Right.
But they're all delivered via CSS, because as much as there are a handful of small benefits available to delivering these assets via JavaScript, that just doesn't feel right. It just feels inconsistent with this being a CSS technology.
Right. It's a bit of added complexity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And and I think as I said early on, I think there are benefits to doing that at this stage, but this is such a nascent technology that let's focus on making the core technologies underneath it work, and then we can get crazy with it.
Right. And then a lot of that's dependent on the browser makers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. We still got to deal with how do we get that now that we can have that consistency theoretically. How do we focus on getting it?
Right.
And I think there's more value in working with the typography, working with the fonts, figuring out the best way to get things to look decent with an Internet Explorer.
Right.
And just trying to explore this new world of web typography without adding additional technology complexities to it.
Right. So that might lead us a little bit into there's a lot of other people kind of in your field now. I mean, there's Typekit and Font Spring and Font Deck, and there's WebType is kind of a new one. I don't see a lot of these as being so much competition because they're all, I think, doing a good service. For,
because there's a huge. I mean, the world is full of different font repositories, and I'm not going to be able to include all of those fonts within Kernest, and I don't want to some degree, right? And the existing foundries, I think for a long time, I think there's a huge benefit for a foundry to provide this service themselves, right? There's a lot of benefit that because they own those, because they own those assets, that they can make them easily available in all sorts of ways, and really increase their overall sales. In a way that I wouldn't be able to do because I don't own those assets in the same way.
Right. I kind of wonder if long term, eventually you would go straight to the foundry, or in a way the MP3s are available freely. You just get the file and download it, and over time, record labels have come to find out that that's a good way to do it, right?
Absolutely.
So it seems like one day there may be a time when the font foundries see it in a similar way, where openness is better.
Right, and using it as a way to, or structuring it in a way to easily try it out.
Right.
So if I could, from a font foundry, grab a snippet of CSS code and add it into my website, just to try out if the font's going to work for me, and then say, oh yeah, it will work. Now I'm going to make that sale.
Right.
It seems like a great sort of stepping stone.
Right. That's one of a new challenge as a designer is finding out ways to mock up designs.
Absolutely.
So I find myself taking screenshots from browsers and putting them in a Photoshop.
Well, that's a whole other challenge, right?
It is. I'd like to see a service that could help with some of that at some point.
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm hoping that something like the Konstellations offering starts to remedy. Like, no, here are the fonts. Here's how you can install them. Here's a license that goes along with them that says, yes, you can do whatever you need to do. And here's some examples.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about Konstellations. Exactly what was your kind of desire? What prompted you to do that? And exactly what is it?
Yeah. So what I saw, and as I was mentioning to some other people last night, like I'm guilty of the same crime, right? Is like, hey, look, we've got all these great new web fonts that we can use. Let's add them into our website, our blog, or whatever, like really spice it up. But it could be any font. Right? There's nothing inherent in the design of this website that dictates I need to use this font. Right. I've just decided arbitrarily that I'm going to use this one as a little decoration, almost like a sticker, right? Not much like just a more web standards compliant way of using cipher, basically, right, for headlines, and then still using Arial for body copy or something like that, right? Come on! And so Konstellations was an effort to do two things. One, solve that problem of, now that I picked one font, what about others that would go well with this, right? We've solved one design problem, but we've sort of introduced another one. And then secondarily, let's really start to push web typography in a way that print typography was pushed 10 years ago, and in some degree is still being pushed, right? In a way that actually takes account the letter forms and the relationship of the letter forms to themselves and the CSS and all of that stuff, and start to really inspire other people to see what they can do.
Yeah, and that was what really, it showed up in my inbox. And I was like, what is this? And then I looked at it and this is really cool because they were great fonts, and it really was a nice way to present them, and it made me like just really want to use them.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was really great.
Yeah, and I think that starts to really show not just what can be done with web typography, but it feels like because these fonts are openly licensed, or at this point the ones in Konstellations are openly licensed, we could you could use them in a book. You could use them in the posters that I'm seeing on your walls, right? They could be used in any design project, not just a website.
Right. So where do you see Kernest going in the next 6 months or a year?
Yeah, so we're building out the Konstellation stuff, and I think that's getting some nice traction. I'm really happy about that, and I think we're going to start to see more hooks and offerings across that, more examples of what we can do with these with openly licensed fonts and some of the web fonts in general in a way that we haven't seen before. I'm really excited about starting to really push that, and then I've got some sketches of web typography that I haven't seen before.
Right.
That I can't wait to get put into markup in CSS.
Cool. Well, Garrick, thanks for talking to us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And make sure to check out Kernest.com.
Very good.
Right,
Have
thanks.
a great day.
All right.
Bye.
Dude.